So we mentioned overeating. Yeah, being you have this habit that you don't feel satisfied. I read something that says that it takes almost like 20 minutes for your brain, the food that you are eating, for your brain to register that you are being full. So some people have the habit of just eating and eating and eating to the point that they overeat, and that becomes an unhealthy habit. And we also mentioned poor nutrition. Yeah, so there is one kind of foods that they are stuck with it because that's what they know, or that's all that they are aware of. So they keep eating the same poor nutrition over and over and over again. And that is an unhealthy habit. We mentioned alcoholism, addiction, and did you check the negative mindset? I think we went through all that, and loneliness was the last one we mentioned.
So we are talking about these 5 things, how habits are formed. First one going to be, we're going to talk about the environment. It's one key player of how you form the habits that you have today. And then learning, and then coping, how your coping mechanisms lead you into being in some kind of habit. So those things are things that make you form or formulate some habits. And then also brain conditioning. Scientifically we call it neuronal conditioning. Your brain pathways that also involve making you stick to certain habits. And then lastly, we're going to talk about a habit loop, how habits are formed. The first one being the environment. You understand? Right?
Environment. So where you grew up. So maybe when you were growing up, there are certain things that were readily available in the environment. So that can be something that unconsciously you have picked on it, and it has become part of you. You have been doing it over and over and over. And maybe now you realize that whatever you picked from your environment is not that healthy, but you have repeatedly done it over and over to a point that it's now part of your habits. Let's think of maybe you grew up in an environment that you have a lot of carbohydrates, foods readily available in your surroundings. So when you were growing up, that's why you find yourself eating over and over again. So that's like something you cherish so much. And it's a habit that you realize that is so hard to break because you have the taste and the desire to consume that kind of unhealthy foods. But it's not your doing, but because of where you grew up, the environments, the things around you, you have unconsciously picked on those things, and it has become part of you.
All right. So that is one of the points, your environment, your surroundings, what is around you. So according to behavior scientists, people are the product of their genes and their environment. Product of your genes will code for one protein or the other and tell you what you could use your protein for. But in order for you to actually come out and do something, your genes will be shaped by the environment. And so environment definitely tells what some of the habits are. It doesn't mean that if you are in a place, you have to automatically become what they do. But what we are saying is that some people have developed some habits because of where they are. Where they are, their surroundings have shaped them. And so their belief system, the way they do their things, their interaction with elderly people, the way their attitude towards work, whether or not they will be drinking, all these things have been shaped by the environment. I know for a fact that in certain very colder climates, in Russia and in other places where it's very cold, a lot of people stick to alcohol because for them, when they drink alcohol during the colder months, they get warm. So by virtue of being there, if you do not choose not to drink, you will eventually be tempted to drink because that is what some people believe should be used to, to control the colder climate that they find themselves in. So environment can dictate a lot of habits. So if you are in any habit that you don't know how it came about, it is potentially from your surroundings. So that is one key thing that makes people form those habits. whether it's dangerous or good. The other thing is your access to certain things. If you have access to certain things, then that will also inform what you do with those things that you have access to. If you do not have access to certain things, it will also inform what you do not do because you don't have access to. And so if you see, for example, little kids walking barefooted in some very poor places in India or in, maybe in Pakistan or maybe in Africa or somewhere, it is not because they have chosen not to wear, shoes or slippers, but they have no access, no access to clothing, no access to money is not there. And so it is not like, as for them, or the parents don't like dressing good. It is the lack of access. So if that habit is there, you cannot blame them for that, So, habits do form out of what the environment dictates to a lot of people. Some people have no choice but to yield to the habit that is there. And some actually have found themselves into culture. So you think that these people believe in this way. It's not because they believe, it's because of what is surrounding them, what they have. They're making do with what they have, and they have formed beliefs, some belief systems you hear and you'll be surprised. They believe in this? Yes, they do, because that's what is around them. And because they have to make some excuse or some reason for doing what they do. They formulate some belief systems. If you have
with the access, some area they have access to drugs, but because it's in their environment and it's out there that it's available, so their chance of getting their hands on it is there, then they will build that habit. And as we've already mentioned, it becomes part of you because you do it over and over and over, and it's now part of you. And sometimes you get rewards for having certain habits, right? So if you have substance abuse around you, or if you try a little harder, you will get hold of it. It's likely that you are going to pick up some habits that will be harmful to you.
That's very important, yes, because of what you have access to illicit drugs, access to crack cocaine, access to cigarettes, access to alcohol. It is so rampant. Where we live, alcohol is very cheap. Not that I went to buy some, but I've heard. Yes, I've heard from people who drink. Here in the US, alcohol is very cheap, comparatively or relatively, compared to other places. And so if you have that access and money is not an issue, then you can easily be, influenced to drink. And that brings us to the other issue of the environment influencing you. The kind of people that you associate yourself with can easily influence you. Influence comes with people that are around you or your surroundings. The people that are next to you, the people that you go to school with, the people that you work with, the people that you roll with, basically, would influence you, and that influence can make you form some form of habits, which may be dangerous. We are hoping that you form habits that are not dangerous from people, but definitely your environment can bring influence. The places you go to school, the places that you live, people will make sure that they influence you. And this is where leadership comes in. We know that leadership is influence, right? So if you live in a place where people are leading you to think some way, you can formulate some habits that are, in agreement with what those people who are leading you are saying. If you are led by a minister or by a politician who thinks that the status quo should not change, everything should remain the same, just be poor your life and, just a little bit, go by day, and you'll be fine, and you accept that, then you develop a habit of laziness. You won't be, a person who is adventurous. You won't be somebody who wants to make it big. So you become habitually lazy. So influence in the environment. So the physical surroundings, as well as the access to the things around you, and the influence of the people surrounding you.
Yeah. So sometimes your culture can also influence you.
Definitely.
The way that the people around you think can also influence you. Sometimes when there is a problem, health problem or something that we cannot explain, we tend to associate that or attribute that to some outer forces out there, So you've been conditioned so much over and over again that, if my life is not going as expected, then somebody else is
It's
doing
doing
me.
me. My goodness.
You know, somebody else is making me like not prosper in life. Somebody else. So instead of looking within and trying to find solution for our lives or why things are not happening, we tend to say that, oh, it's somebody else.
Somebody else.
And you have built that in you so much so that everything that comes your way, you don't look within, you look for somebody else. You point your finger at somebody else. That is maybe cultural. Maybe you can think about it that because of the way that your environments were when you were growing up. That's why you have adapted that way of thinking. And that can really be a very harmful thing.
Very, very harmful. Now, honey, it's important that you brought this up because in some places that I think we have lived before, some people would blame every major problem they have on quote unquote witches and wizards. Everything. While in other places people look. Do you know that when I was a kid, I thought that if somebody had epilepsy, it's because it's a spiritual thing. Because the environment that I lived, that's what they said.
That.
They believed that. Yeah, they believed that's a spiritual thing that somebody is doing you. Until I became a pharmacist, I went to actually, while as a student, then we realized that all these things have chemical components that can be solved with medications. In the same way, somebody is blaming some old grandmother who doesn't even have teeth to chew meat. Poor old lady, they are being blamed for multiple problems that they have no clue how they came by. Perchance they, menopause happens and they have hot flashes and they say certain words that don't make sense. That is the proof. Oh yeah, we told you this woman is a witch or wizard. We told you this woman is a witch. This old man is a wizard. You see what she or he is saying? This man or woman is probably dealing with some mental health issues, probably going through some serious hot flashes, menopausal symptoms, and yet we choose them and blame them, and then we sit down and relax because this old person is doing me. That is a habit that comes from where you live and what you believe. So environmental processes. In fact, this is a serious thing with developing countries. Many people attribute their problems to spirits, thinking that if something is not going right, it's got to be somebody who is jujuing them. It is not so. It is not so. But until you begin to believe otherwise and begin to research into problems and find solutions like other people have done. People have, done research and found that medications could be used to treat epilepsy. Medications could be used to treat anxiety. Medications could be used to treat diabetes. Then you will sit down and become what you just believe. And God forbid, what that will lead you up to, whether you don't take yourself seriously by going to hospital or doing an annual checkups to make sure that your diseases are cured. Because of course you have something to blame. So those are habits that form as a result of beliefs, influences, and culture that we find ourselves in. Like, comment, share, follow, give stars, and visit our website. That way we will roll together. That's the way of supporting us. We say, Beloved, we wish above all things that you prosper and be in health, even as your soul prospers. Thanks for watching, and see you again.
Thank you.
As you go out and live your better life.